YouTube is up. And Twitch is up. Yep.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in this beautiful world. My name is Nick, and I'll be your host for today's chat with the Board of Governors. This is a VATSIM Town Hall. To kick off the town hall, we're going to give a few moments for each of the Board of Governors to introduce themselves and give you a little insight into what they do for the network and maybe a bit about themselves personally as well. We'll start it off with the president of VATSIM, VATGov1, Mr. Tim Barber. Tim, take it away.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Tim Barber et je suis le président de le réseau VATSIM. Hello, my name's Tim Barber. I'm the president of the VATSIM network and coming you today live or taped from sunny Kingston, Ontario, where I live, halfway between Toronto and Montreal, right at the northeast corner of Lake Ontario. And over my shoulder is the Kingston Flying Club, where in 1990 I obtained my private pilot license. I went on to college in Toronto and picked up my commercial license and then earned my ATPL, flying mainly as an air ambulance and charter pilot until I retired from the industry and moved on to some other things. But Kingston is a great place to live. I love our airport here. We have our Harvard on a stick, which rotates with the wind, so it acts like a weather vane. Winds are out of the southwest today. And of course, I have my lovely Canadian Tim Hortons coffee to keep me warm. I've been a member of VATSIM since the early 2000s, served in many roles on the network. On the Board of Governors, I was in charge of supervisors. I was Vice President of Operations before jumping into my current role as President. And it's a network I love, it's a community I love, and I'm so happy that all of you are here today to join us for our town hall. I see some Canadian geese heading my way and a pack of beavers that I think probably want some Timbits. So I'm going to pass it on to our Vice President, Don Defosse, who will introduce himself.
Hi everyone, I'm Don Defosse. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts in the United States, and I currently serve as the Vice President of Operations for VATSIM. Although that's a relatively recent appointment for me, most of my 3 years on the Board of Governors has been as the Vice President of Membership. And that's where I'm proudest of the accomplishments and advancements that we've made in VATSIM over the last few years. My team and I have been super focused on improving our policies and our procedures and our systems and our friendliness in atmosphere, both for the benefit of our existing members as well as new members as well. We've grown our active membership by over 62%. 122,000 new member registrations over the last few years, over 20,000 people returning back to VATSIM to enjoy the improvements and advancements that we've made in the VATSIM community. Outside of VATSIM, I serve as an engineering manager in a large global corporation. I'm a husband, I'm a dad of 2 wonderful daughters. I serve as their softball coach for their teams 3 seasons out of the year. I'm very active in my church community. And I fly. I love to fly. I hold airline transport pilot licenses and flight instructor licenses, single and multi-engine, land and sea. Fly as much as I can, friends and family around whenever I can, which is never enough. So that's about me in a nutshell. Don Defosse, the Vice President of Operations. And now I'm happy to introduce Federico Navarro, the Vice President of the Americas region.
Hello, I'm Federico Navarro, Regional Vice President for the Americas on VATSIM. I've been on the BOG for 2 years. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. During this time, we have been working in different projects, one of them being the FSS for South America, the FSS for the Caribbean, and we continue to have more projects down the line, working and developing for VATSIM. I'm originally from Costa Rica. I have been living in the United States for around 15 years. And the passion for aviation has always been over there. So whenever we have a time, we go and fly around on Peachtree Airport right over here in Atlanta. So don't be surprised if you see me around there. So that's me. I'm Federico Navarro, Regional Vice President for the Americas, VATSIM, and I pass it now to you, Simon.
Hello, my name is Simon Irvin, and I'm the VATSIM Vice President for Europe, Middle East, and North Africa region. So my region comprises of divisions of the UK, Europe, Israel, VATSIM Russia, Sub-Saharan Africa, and VATSIM the Middle East and North Africa. The great thing about the region structure now is how we work together as division directors, sharing best practice, so that all our members can have the best training, flying experience, and also some of the best events like Cross the Land and Cross the Pond. Outside of VATSIM, I live in Scotland. I work in the telecoms industry. I'm a bit of a tech geek, and I love playing golf, and I love soccer as well. So I hope you enjoy the town hall this evening, and now I'm going to hand over to my colleague Anis.
Hello everyone, I am Anastasios Steifopoulos, Vice President of Asia Pacific. I am from Athens, Greece, and my interest into aviation led me to join VATSIM back in 2004 and have contributed since then to the network and the community, serving on various staff positions such as the Training Director, VSC Director, Acting Director for various divisions, Instructor, Examiner, and the Region Director of Asia. I am a positive energy person with a can-do approach. I value teamwork and to lead by example. I aim to positively expand the members' experience, offering a fair team working environment and give life to places with a bit of a lower online activity within APAC. Outside of VATSIM, I have completed studies on human resources and public relations. I also hold an ATPL license, worked for the airlines in Europe, and worked the last few years in companies primarily on tourism. I read aviation-related books, play basketball, and visit the gym during my free time. It is an absolute pleasure to be here among the BOG members and the local teams. I would like to say a big thank you to everyone for being a part of VATSIM. That is all from me in a nutshell. And now I'd like to introduce you my colleague, Vice President of Network Infrastructure, Matt Cianfrani.
Hello, my name is Matt Cianfrani, and I serve as the Vice President of Network Infrastructure as well as the Interim Vice President of Membership for VATSIM. I currently live in Toronto, Canada. During my tenure on the board, we've enacted many changes to the server-side infrastructure we use, from bringing all the infrastructure in-house and under our control, as well as a consolidation of our infrastructure vendors. We have constantly and consistently made improvements during this time to bring our infrastructure up to spec to support the massive growth that the organization has seen, as well as to support enhancements such as AFV and velocity. Outside of VATSIM, I work as a product sales manager for a cloud provider, working to understand an organization's needs and designing solutions tailored to them. Serving on the VATSIM Board of Governors has been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to seeing what the next years have in store for us.
Hello, I'm Nick Cavaccini. I'm from the Greater Philadelphia region of the United States. I currently serve as the Vice President Supervisors for VATSIM, a position I have held since June of last year. The Supervisor Department's primary mission is to ensure VATSIM remains a safe and enjoyable environment. To accomplish this, the Department acts as ambassadors for the VATSIM network, providing that first line of assistance to our membership. Since I've taken on the role, we've had several successes, including an update of the Department's standard operating procedures and guidance on handling various types of incidents on the network. An ongoing project that I'm most excited for is an overhaul of our supervisor training program. The new training program will be standardized and feature asynchronous learning to better make use of everyone's time and ensure that all supervisors will receive training to the same standards. Outside of VATSIM, I've recently completed my private pilot certificate. This is a goal I have been pursuing for the past few years, and it is amazing to finally have it completed after returning from a break in training. I'm currently working on building flight time towards future certificates and ratings, and enjoying everything the aviation community has to offer. Outside of aviation, I work in information technology and cybersecurity, and I'm looking forward to weather improving as we make our way into the spring to participate in more outdoor activities. I look forward to continuing to serve as your Vice President Supervisors, and I'll turn it over to Nick Fellini, Vice President Conflict Resolution.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Nicola Fellini. I'm the Vice President for Conflict Resolution on the VATSIM network. My department's responsibilities are to adjudicate matters referred to us by the Supervisor Department. Typically, those are suspensions at or greater than 48 hours. My staff will review matters and determine if additional sanctions are necessary, up to and including permanent suspension. We also administer the various appeal levels for these suspensions on the network. In the last couple of years, we've worked to build a good team of individuals that are reliable so that all the cases are answered all over the world. We've updated the Code of Regulations for better accountability and better control over the department. We've also introduced 2 documents that we hope to improve the consistency of decisions and suspensions throughout the network concerning similar violations. I think we've done an excellent job to increase our consistency there. As always, we're looking to improve. While I don't have contact with most people in my role of conflict resolution, my door is always open. I invite any emails. While it might not be handled by my department, I'm happy to engage in conversation. I've been on the network for quite some time. I don't even remember how long. Of course, coming from an aviation hobby, I started in New York, RTEC. I am a resident born and raised from New York. From there, I've moved up. I was the region director for North America. And shortly before the executive committee was dissolved and merged into the Board of Governors, I obtained the role as Vice President of Conflict Resolution. And I've been an active member of the network that entire time. Again, my door is always open. It's nice to have this venue to speak to everybody. Thank you for your time. And again, enjoy our network.
Hi, my name is Roger Curtis. I've served in various capacities with VATSIM since its inception, and for the past 10 years, I've been the Vice President of Virtual Airlines and Special Operations. We seek to increase pilot participation on the network by offering our Virtual Airline Partner Program, as well as a VA Associate Program for new VAs. Our Special Operations Administration exists to provide a means for VATSIM members to participate in military flight activity online. I'm retired and I reside on Orcas Island in Washington State, which allows me ample time to walk my dogs, go crabbing, and spend probably way too much time on VATSIM. This is a remarkable organization, and I am pleased to be a part of it as a pilot, a controller, and as a governor.
Hello there, my name's Simon Kelsey and I'm the Vice President for Pilot Training here at the VATSIM Network. I've been a VATSIM member for over 21 years, joined the Board of Governors last summer in the pilot training role, and since then I've been working on our pilot feedback project to help support our pilot members in improving their VATSIM and their flight simulation experience. I've also been working with our ATO partners to make it easier to set up and run an authorized training organization within the VATSIM network. And finally, we've launched a big project to overhaul our new member orientation course, a complete rewrite to really improve the support that we offer to all of our new members. Outside of VATSIM, I work in the broadcast media for one of our national news and sport radio stations here in the UK. And if I'm not online, you can probably find me rooting around in the trees at our local golf course. That's me then, Simon Kelsey, Vice President for Pilot Training at VATSIM. I'll hand you over now to Matt Bartels, Vice President Marketing.
Hello everyone, my name is Matt Bartels and I hail from the Midwest United States. I've been the Vice President for Marketing and Communications on VATSIM the past 4 years. During my time on the Board of Governors, my department has been focused on increasing direct and open communication for all members with VATSIM's senior leadership. We're constantly looking at both VATSIM and other communications platforms to see what both members and potential members think about the VATSIM experience, as well as their concerns. I take these concerns back to the Board of Governors to address and find resolutions so VATSIM can continue to serve the best interests of our members. Our team's biggest accomplishments have been developing and implementing VATSIM's new logo and branding, increasing awareness of VATSIM through engagement with flight simulation developers and participations in shows such as Flight Sim Expo, as well as increasing our social media engagement. Our most important current project is focusing on the educate part of VATSIM's tagline. We've been working with both pilot training and other departments to create training-focused items that we are posting to draw pilot attention to common errors made on VATSIM and how to rectify them. It will be a key part of our pilot accountability project. Outside of VATSIM and flight simulation, I like to spend time with my wife, who I've been with since high school, beach myself on a cruise ship, play an occasional hand of craps, and even hit a golf ball 5 feet poorly. Thanks for listening to my introduction, and I'm honored to introduce VATSIM President Tim Barber with the keynote address.
I'm bound to be interrupted by my wife, by my dog, by one of my cats. Who knows what it'll be? So welcome, and wherever and whenever you are in the world, welcome to our town hall. My name is Tim Barber. I am your VATSIM president, and wherever you are tuning in from, welcome. You've all had the opportunity to meet our Board of Governors through our video introductions, which just kicked off the town hall. And while many may feel a certain detachment from the Board of Governors, personally, I feel privileged to have met so many members in person through various events related to VATSIM and virtual aviation. I've attended flight simulation conferences in Connecticut, Las Vegas, Florida, and most recently in California. I also had the opportunity to travel to the UK for a VATSIM conference, and later this year, I do hope to return there. I count many of you as friends, even though there are some who I've never met in person. And that is one of the amazing things about our network and our community, in that it brings so many people together as lovers of aviation. We all have a story of how we got to VATSIM, and I beg your indulgence while I share mine. In the early 1980s, my father opened a personal computer store here in my, not my hometown, but where I live in Kingston. I was 12 and spent a lot of time at the store playing games and generally getting in the way of everyone that worked there. One day, one of my father's employees sat me in front of a computer running Microsoft Flight Simulator version number 1. And for anyone who has seen this version, well, it's nothing like what we have today, and there was nothing really redeeming about it in any way. But for whatever reason, I was hooked. In January of 1990, while I was still in high school, I started my pilot training, and by July, I had my private ticket. Skip ahead 4 years after attending university, I was accepted into a college in Toronto that offered aviation and flight technology as a program that ran for 8 semesters and was fortunately subsidized by the government. So we flew Cessna 150s, Beechcraft Bonanzas, and Barons. And in 1997, after completing the course, I started my commercial career towing banners and flying traffic patrol over the city of Toronto. My 14 minutes of fame in 1998 during a traffic patrol mission, the Cessna 172 I was flying suffered a catastrophic engine failure over the city of Toronto. And I ended up dead sticking it into a soccer field. It was actually 4 soccer fields end to end. No damage to me or my passenger or to the airplane, but that marked the first of 2 engine failures that I had in my aviation career. A few months later, I did move back to Kingston and spent the next 9 years flying charter and air ambulance missions, during which I earned my ATPL and became what I suspect is one of the highest time Cessna 421 pilots in Canada. The company I work for survived the downturn caused by the tragic events of 9/11, but things were never the same. And in 2007, I made the decision to leave the aviation industry and move on to other pursuits. VATSIM records show that I joined the network on August 15th, 2011 at 8:02 and 20 seconds Zulu. That would have equated to about 4 a.m. local time, which is probably pretty likely given my sleep habits back in the days. I know I had previously been a member of SATCO when I was in Toronto, but records of that no longer exist. And when I retired from my aviation career in 2007, it was my membership and participation in the VATSIM network and community that kept me from missing my aviation career. I tell many people now the 2 things that I miss about flying are flying at night and flying in bad weather. But fortunately, I can do both of those with my simulator. Through VATSIM, I was able to hold on to my knowledge and skills by flying on the network and learn something new by controlling here. I remain very active participant, having logged 772 pilot hours over the last 12 months, according to VATSIM statistics. VATSIM's diversity is measured in many ways. Geographically, as we have members literally from all over the world. Demographically, with members from all ages and backgrounds, and experientially, with members who join with little to no experience and those who are real-world airline captains or experienced real-world air traffic controllers. All people from around the world who share a passion for aviation and, importantly, a willingness to learn are welcome in VATSIM. We strive to make VATSIM a safe place for all, and it was designed and continues to operate as a virtual world free from war, religion, politics, or any other topic that could cause conflict between our members. Occasionally, when global events happen that increase tension in the world, we need to remind ourselves that when we connect to VATSIM, we are members of a community that enthusiastically celebrates aviation with each other as the founders of this network intended. Myself and my colleagues on the Board of Governors are often pulled in to assist members who are in conflict with other members. Sometimes these can be attributed to petty piques and quarrels, but other situations can be more serious. VATSIM must always be a safe place for people to exist, and we do our best to keep it as such. Sometimes, however, for a variety of reasons, members are uncomfortable approaching another member of the network or the Board of Governors for help. To assist with this, it is my intention to propose the introduction of a VATSIM ombudsman, whose role would be to work with members to explore and assist them in determining options to help resolve conflicts, problematic issues or concerns, and importantly, to bring systematic issues to the attention of the VATSIM Board of Governors for resolution. In doing so, my hope is to reduce the burden on our supervisory and conflict resolution staff while at the same time helping members to enjoy the network safely and enjoyably. Over the last 2 years, VATSIM has added over 100,000 new and returning members to the network. We attribute this growth to a few different reasons: the global pandemic that saw many people staying home with time to engage with new or forgotten hobbies, the release of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 that breathed new life into a product with amazing visual components, and our own technical advances around audio for VATSIM and velocity, to name a few. The growth has been remarkable, and it sometimes has caused stresses on the network, but I feel we are stronger than ever and the place to be for what will always be a free-to-use network simulation network. As a network, we owe a huge debt of gratitude to so many members who have selfishly volunteered their time and efforts to make VATSIM an amazing place for flight simulation. To Gary Oliver, Mark Barnes, and the entire Audio for VATSIM team, to our Velocity technical team led by Matt Bozo-Davies along with Mike Evans, and all of our pilot client developers, including Ross Carlson for vPilot, Justin Shannon for XPilot, and Roland, whose last name I can't pronounce, and the entire Swift team. Thank you to everyone who I've named above and whose names I'm sure I've omitted. Much love and respect to all of you. This ends my keynote. I'm now going to turn things over to our Master of Ceremonies, Nick, who will lead us through the question and answer session. Nick.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate that. We will now go on to the question and answer session, as Tim mentioned. And questions answered during this period are chosen from the top voted questions that were taken during this submittal and voting period that happened earlier this week through the past week. Each question will be given 2 minutes for the respondent to answer and address. And if you have follow-up questions to the current topic, you can ask those via the live Q&A link, and that's vats.im/townhall22. And hopefully the moderators will do us all a favor and throw that into the chats on Twitch and YouTube. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get in to the very first question. And this question is for Tim. And is, why is the BOG holding to top-down principle, which simply does not work anymore with today's traffic? Let controllers cross-couple frequencies if they want to provide top-down, but make it optional. Tim?
Thanks, Nick. You know, VATSIM, the whole top-down concept is really the cornerstone of VATSIM. We're not really sure sort of where this member is in the world that it's causing a problem. There are some areas, obviously, that have had much increased traffic in the last little while, but we still feel that it works, and it's meant to facilitate an augmented air traffic control service during the majority of times when there's fewer controllers and enough traffic to make it worthwhile and easy to manage for the ATC. But to be clear, our global ratings policy does not state that online ATC must provide top-down service. It says that it's preferred to do it when traffic loads permit. So in terms of showing multiple control frequencies, while this is allowed within certain parameters, sector consolidation or expansion, we don't allow sort of cross-coupling on a vertical level. We see on a regular basis that when controllers are actively using frequencies that are not displayed on the pilot clients, there's often confusion and wasted time while pilots try and figure out which frequency they should be on. Of course, in a perfect world, pilots shouldn't need the ATC frequency window in their client as a crutch, but we don't live in a perfect world. We have members with varying skills and experience, and some of them do indeed rely on VATSIMisms to provide, and hopefully temporarily, clues and assistance to help them develop their experience and skill. From a technical standpoint, however, there are currently technical and cost considerations associated with opening multiple pseudo positions with their own discrete frequencies. As with many things in life, we are trying to balance realism versus limitations of skill, technical architecture, and cost to provide the best experience to as many people as possible.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate that. I was waiting for you to pass it back as I'm sitting here going, here we go. So look at that, folks. You get a live view into our first town hall here. Let's move on to the second question. And again, if you have those follow-up questions, make sure you get them onto that Q&A, live Q&A link. And you may not see them show up immediately on the active question link. So don't rest assured, though, that your question did get submitted. So the second question is we're passing over to Simon. And Simon, as we see more controllers needed for events, etc., why are the waiting list to get on to the course to become a controller still as lengthy as before? Simon?
Okay, Nick, I know this is a really topical question, and not just in my region, but there's a lot of members across our network looking to get into ETC to climb through the ranks, so how important this is. So I guess so that we can make our network a really enjoyable experience, we need our controllers to be trained and to be trained to a good standard. So that takes time because we need our controllers to be trained in procedures, in theory, and we also need that new knowledge to embed as well. This takes time, especially from the training department side across the divisions. So that's why it takes a little bit more time. And what's exacerbated that a little bit over the past couple of years is we've had a really big influx of members. So the more members we get, the more people who want to train to be controllers. So we go through that process of, we've got to teach everyone who wants to come along to be controllers. So that does take time. What I'm glad to see happening, though, is rather than just one-on-one mentoring that's happened, a lot of divisions are now doing online theory mentoring as well. So that will all help to hopefully quicken the process up. But, I've been through this myself, and I know how frustrating it is, but we're doing everything we can to try and get as many people online to be controllers. Back to you, Nick.
Thanks, Simon. Go on to the next question, and this one is for Matt. Matt, are there any plans to implement Mode S EHS in the near future? I understand that selected flight level could be difficult, but the other data is super useful for controllers working busy sectors. For the SFL, VATSIM could set the standard for add-on devs. Matt?
Thanks, Nick. That's a great question. In a couple blog posts and forum posts, we have alluded to this in the past, but with our current tech stack and the architecture of the network, it isn't possible. That said, we've gone ahead and we've roadmapped this for future inclusion. And as we continue to develop the network and the tech that we use, we look forward to rolling this out. Back to you.
Thanks, Matt. The next one is actually for you, so stick around. Are there any plans for a new website with more information for pilots and controllers?
Absolutely. This is a pretty hot topic item, and if you look, it's been discussed many, many times. There is a new site. It is in development. It is currently being reworked with some new tech that we've rolled out in the background and being reworked to fit into our infrastructure. We hope to get this released as soon as we can.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate that. Okay, we'll go on to the next question here. And the next one is for Matt Bartle. So Matt, as a new pilot, I've noticed that the rules in this network are very strict. Are there regions or times where it's better to practice? Matt? And it looks like Matt is speaking on mute. Let's try it again.
I knew I'd be the first one to do that.
There we go.
All right, so that's a question that's asked quite a bit by newer members, as far as, where do I start? I don't want to interfere with the VATSIM experience. I don't want to make things harder on controllers. So one thing the marketing department has done is the First Wings events, and these are events specifically catering to new pilots, and we let the controllers know there will be new pilots and that they're going to make mistakes, and to help them learn. So that's a great way to do it. The standard has always been, sign on at a less busy airport during the non-event periods. And that kind of goes hand in hand. If you ignore that advice and you choose to load up at a busy class Bravo, Dubai, Frankfurt, Heathrow, Kennedy, LAX, Sydney, any of them, during an event, you're going to end up task saturated and won't be able to perform to the level that's expected you of a pilot in those situations. So to fly there, you do need to have a solid grasp on the aircraft you're flying, as well as the procedures for the airport. And then to be more successful, we recommend you look at map.vatsim.net and find a smaller airport that's got a controller on, and try a VFR flight plan or circuits, pattern work, whatever you call it in your local countries. And then progress up the steps, then move into IFR flight, and then move into airliners, all that kind of stuff. So really the best flight to get started is VFR in a general aviation aircraft from a Delta or Charlie. And back to you, Nick.
Thanks, Matt. We'll go on to the next question, and this one is for Roger Curtis. Roger, special operations, MIL, SAR, TSA, are non-existent on VATSIM as they require training by inactive VSOAs, and even then are extremely restricted. Can the rules be loosened so that special operations can be allowed when pilots or ATC agree, or would have no impact to others? Roger?
The short answer is no, but to expound upon that a bit, special operations, first of all, are not non-existent on VATSIM at the moment. Yes, they are restricted to special operations administration organizations, but if you check the website and the list of virtual airlines, you'll see that at the moment there are 15 of these organizations to choose from, and there are 1 or 2 still in the pipeline being vetted for admittance. We've had restrictions on military flight activity since the initiation of VATSIM, and it's precisely because of the nature of those operations and their possible impact on other members that we feel that control of them is necessary. That's why the training is provided, but we don't have inactive VSOAs. There are, as I said, there are 15 active ones at the moment, appealing to a wide variety of people who might want to be involved in military flight activity. We've also found, as an example, in the recent and ongoing problem in Ukraine, we've had people on the network who have been engaging in questionable flight activity. None of them are members of the VSOAs. They are all respecting the proper rules for engagement and non-engagement in these conditions. So that's why we feel that it's important to keep some restrictions in place. And again, we offer ample opportunity for anyone who's interested to join a VSOA. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Roger. And we'll go on to the next question, which is back to our Mr. Marketing guy, Matt. And the question is, will VATSIM allow preferred names that are acceptable to an extent anytime in the future? Matt?
Yeah, so a little confused by this question. We already do allow preferred names per the code of conduct. You can sign in with your full name, appropriate shortening of your given name. You could do first name, last initial, all that kind of stuff, or you can sign in CDID only. We feel that all those options are important to maintain the sense of community that we have here at VATSIM. But if the question is referring to, can we use my, gamer tag or something like that, that's not in the plans right now.
Okay, thank you very much, Matt. We'll move on to the next question, and this one is for Anis. Anis, the gap between between, looks like we have a typo there, but the gap between controller and pilot training requirements. What is being planned by the BOG to give pilots that bit more of a helping hand to ensure both the pilots and controllers enjoy their online session? Ennis? Ennis, I think you might be on mute. It looks like Ennis has a microphone issue. Tim, do you want to step in and take this one?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you.
No problem. You know, one of the big things that we've made great strides on in the last few years is improving our pilot training program. It started with Ethan Hawes. Congratulations, Ethan, if you're out there. Just got his line check done for Southwest Airlines. You know, but through him and through the department, we implemented a new member orientation requirement. And, you know, we're working with the community to steer members who need a little more support and training toward our training materials, as well as other available training materials just in general. You know, we've done this systematically, and we continue to work with the community through forums, Discord, ATC engagements, and supervisor engagements to provide the right direction and encouragement for those members and pilots that can benefit from additional training. You know, I said from the beginning in my opening remarks that a member must be willing to learn to be a part of this network. And if they're, you know, we try and provide all of those resources for them to learn so that they can, you know, learn and progress and work their way up into you know, better levels of competency. And to that end, we started the ATO program, which are actively training pilots, and several of our ATC facilities and community members, including streamers, actively teach new members and sponsor new pilot events. And we're very thankful for all of them for doing that. We're always looking for feedback from the community. And if we need to course correct our new member orientation to address those areas where we see pilot deficiency trends, we will, especially for new pilots. And that's back to you, Nick.
Okay, thank you very much, Tim. We will go on to the next question now. And the next one is also for Ennis. So, Tim, I think you may need to step in again if Ennis still doesn't have his mic working quite right. And that question is, what will VATSIM itself do to decrease the waiting times for controller training? And I think we kind of touched on this one a little bit earlier.
Yeah, so I can take that one as well.
Yeah, go ahead, Simon.
Like.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it's kind of like I said, like with the question before, what was said to the divisions, or what I've certainly said to the divisions, is if we can try and get away from one-on-one training, because that's really resource hungry, to try to get more online training done, so that the waiting times can be reduced. We've seen a 62% increase of active members over the past few years, and so like I said before, that has meant that training times have increased. But I promise you, we're doing everything we can to try and reduce that to get more people controlling on the network. Back to you, Nick.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Simon. And we'll go on to the next question, which is for Matt Bartels. Matt, now that the BOG allows users to identify themselves with just their CID, kind of like what we were talking about before, VATSIM airspace has increasingly become just a collection of anonymous AI bot-like blips. Has any consideration been given to the long-term damage this will do to a community cohesiveness? Matt?
Yeah, that's a great question. So really, it's the changing times. Internet privacy has become a key topic for many, many people, and they're flat out just not comfortable signing on to a network like VATSIM with their name. And that doesn't mean that they're not going to be great community members, contribute, let people know what their name is amongst the smaller groups that they're comfortable with. So it's something that we had to get with the times with to allow. Now we do understand that, you know, this is impossible to make, you know, friends with just a random set of numbers. And we need to let CID only be an option, but it really is the hope of the Board of Governors that only those who really, really, really need to connect CID only will use that option. And we actually encourage that most of our members participate in the community and at least provide, their first name, last initial, or just something that you can make a connection with. Then over to you.
If I can just follow up on that too, like, it is, I find it, difficult sometimes when I want to give really good feedback to a controller and I don't have a name associated with it. It would be really great if we could have, everybody connect with their name. But, as Matt said, we have to also respect privacy, and that comes from a lot of different factors. We have a lot of people who are minors who are a member of this group and who, at the request of their parents, have to stay as anonymous as possible. We've got a lot of members who just want their privacy. So unfortunately, it's not something that will ever go away, but we want to be able to cater to as many people with at least disruption as possible.
Thanks, Tim. So we'll go on to the next question. I think we'll pass this one back to Matt now. Oh, I'm sorry, Annis's mic is working in. So Annis, to let you take this one. There are many new pilots that created their accounts several years ago, before the P0 exam was established, but just started flying online right now. Wouldn't it be reasonable to request a P0 exam from these pilots as well? Annis?
So hopefully everyone is able to hear me now.
Yep, we got you.
All right, so this is something that we have considered, but the challenge we faced was easily identify quality of time, experience, and skill a member brought to the table in the past. So that would not warrant a required exam. We tried to strike a balance that was not significantly labor intensive or subjective by simply drawing a line in the sand date. So that said, we still encourage training, including new member orientation for prior registrants to improve skill level, which is really what's important. So that is all on that.
Did we lose you, Mr. Watkins?
And it looks like I'm the one having a microphone issue now. So let's try this again. The next question is for actually Mr. Fellini, but it doesn't look like he's able to make. Oh, no, here he is. And the question is, a lot of the services, website, forum, TeamSpeak, basic training concepts that are needed by VACCs or ARTICs in the US and divisions are very similar worldwide. Wouldn't it be cool if VATSIM provided some of it centrally? And Nick?
Yeah, we'll share the mic since the response is pretty quick. This isn't something VATSIM's currently considering. The good thing about the VATSIM web community is that there are plenty of available open sources, sites, frameworks, and packages available, which can simplify the development process even for people with little or no experience. A list of these tools are available at the github.com site, and also VATSIM network and useful tools that URLs should be available. And are happy to include anything that our community has developed. That's pretty much the response to that. Nick?
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks, Nick. And we've got another question for you, so we'll just keep it rolling. Trolling on 122.8, Unicom Advisory, CTAF, whatever you want to call it, and 121.5 seems rampant, and supervisor response time seems inadequate to handle it. What proactive steps are or can be taken to monitor for misbehavior on open frequencies, and how is the network working to improve supervisor coverage?
I think that's for my esteemed colleague.
You would be right, yeah.
Nick,
the other Nick, sorry. We got three Nicks today, so it's going to get confusing.
So the network strives for 100% supervisor uptime, and the process for selecting new supervisors runs continuously. I'm actually going to be looking to pull up another few supervisors to put in front of the Board of Governors for approval in the very near future. But to answer the question, when I'm online, I try to monitor Unicom wherever I can, and I certainly encourage these supervisors to do the same. That being said, supervisors cannot monitor everything on the network at all times. So the use of the .wallop functionality is the best tool to notify a supervisor of a current problem on the network. And if a supervisor is unable to assist at the moment, please take down all available evidence. This includes screenshots, audio, and video as required, and submit the ticket at our support site, support.vatsim.net, with a help topic of network supervisors incident report. And then this will allow us to review all reports and take action as appropriate.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And that brings us on to the next question. And this one is back to Roger. Roger, the question is, VATSIM is about simulating realism, but it is illegal to fly rescue missions simulated and with known procedures on VATSIM. In this person's opinion, controllers are more often unfamiliar with VFR, special VFR procedures than simulation rescue pilots. Why is it not allowed? Roger?
Well, again, the premise of the question is not valid. Rescue missions are not prohibited. They are allowed. However, they are restricted to Special Operations Administration organizations. And again, it falls into the same realm of trying to offer the best experience for everyone. Rescue missions could interfere with the activities of other members who are not involved in them. And as a result, we like to keep control over who may participate in them. And once again, any member that wants to participate in rescue missions is more than welcome to join a Special Operations Administration organization.
And to be clear, these rules are not just things that we made up. A lot of these things were established by the founders of this network from day one. And their intent through it was to minimize any issues that may cause dispute between members and to cater to the biggest group of people. And while this may be a fun item to do on the network, it's absolutely allowed, as Roger said, just as part of a VSOA. And so we encourage members to go to the website, look up the VSOA airlines and join one. It's as easy as that.
Thanks, Tim. And Roger, thank you. So the next question is on to Anis, and this one is, what is the current status on the development of the pilot feedback system? I know lots of folks are eagerly awaiting an answer on this one. So Anis, take it away.
Thank you. So
yeah, I'm happy to. Thank you. Yeah. The pilot feedback system I think is something that we're all very excited for, but it's important to understand exactly what it's going to be. It is currently under active development, and exactly how it will work and how it will roll out is still being discussed. Has to fit within policy and process, and we need to really figure out how feedback is going to be collected, how it's going to be recorded, and how it's going to be actioned. We're working with the technical team at VATSIM sort of to put together this system where that will happen. We can't give any dates on when it'll be rolled out. It's just not fair to volunteers to do this when rely on their free time for it. But there is good progress being made. Simon Kelsey is very involved in it, and in general, the way it will work is if a pilot is having some issues, a controller will have an opportunity to send a report, and we're not asking for pilots to be flamed or huge negative reviews, just a factual account of what has happened. And it'll give us two things. It'll give us an opportunity to collect data on sort of what the ongoing issues are with pilots, but it will also allow the pilot training department to specifically reach out to that member and say, hey, you know, in a very nice, gentle way, say, look, you know, there were some issues that were reported and we're here to help you. So, you know, can we help you understand what the issue is, and can we direct you to some resources to fix it? Again, we want people to learn. We want people to take constructive feedback and become better members of this network. And that is what the pilot feedback system will be for.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that one. I will go on to the next question. And before we do, just note that any follow-up questions can be asked via the live Q&A link, and that's vats.im/townhall22. They may not show up on the active questions until we get to the follow-up section towards the end of the town hall, but rest assured we have received them. So the next question's for Matt Bartels. And Matt, the question to you is, any updates on the GCAP revisions? Matt?
Thanks, Nick. The GCAP is one ambitious project. It's a project like we've never seen before on the network when it comes to our core structure of air traffic services. So we saw insight from the leadership of VATSIM's largest divisions, representatives from the smaller divisions, general membership, controllers, pilots. We had a large working group on this. The goal was to address another key concern that's routinely brought up by the members, and that's lack of air traffic control. The GCAP would be a major change from the way VATSIM is operated, because it's trying to set the standard which air traffic controllers must meet for their ratings. It would also allow controllers to access more air traffic positions, and we would attempt to do that with less or no drop in the controller quality. So many of the concerns through the process were how GCAP was potentially overreaching, or that things wouldn't work in specific places. We really wanted to reset expectations to allow for controllers to get on positions with less burden. And then we could allow air traffic units to focus their training resources on the places that saw the traffic levels that needed the higher level of proficiency. After we got the draft out, sentiment from the local facilities was pretty negative, and understandably so. They take pride in the quality of service they provide, and they feel that some of the things in the GCAP threatened that quality. The BOG, on the other hand, we feel that this also comes at a cost of overtraining the controllers for less busy positions. So it restricts controllers from all positions instead of letting them get onto a less busy position where they can improve their skills, make mistakes, and it's not going to be as big of an impact that it would at a larger airport. Positions at the higher skill levels, you know, your large class Bravo airports, your Heathrows, your Gatwicks, JFKs, all that. We do need that, and we need that to protect the quality for what VATSIM's known. But we don't while they're training, because we are a learning network. They are expected. It's a good learning tool. As it became rather heated, we felt it was best to take a pause from that project, reevaluate how GCAP will fit into VATSIM's overall vision, and we hope that in the future we can come up with a acceptable middle ground and a workable policy.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt. And we'll move on to the next question. So the next question is back to our president, Mr. Barber. So Tim, the question is, GCAP changes are lowering controller training requirements, and pilots have virtually none. Does the Board of Governors want VATSIM to operate as close as possible to real-life procedures, or to be a game anyone can play? How will this affect experienced player retention? And it kind of leads off of, I think, the question Matt just answered. Tim?
It does, yeah. So, you know, GCAP is still under development. We are, you know, as Matt said, we've taken a pause. We're going to be starting things up again and picking up the ball very soon. So it hasn't been implemented, and so we haven't changed any of the training requirements. GRP is still in force. and that is what is used across the network. That said, we need to be really careful as a network to balance, what we call a viable simulation of the real world, but adapt it for the fact that none of us are, well, not all of us are professional as a pilot or as a controller. At the end of the day, we need to be more accommodating to controllers who mess up as we do to pilots who mess up. We are a learning environment that, and we have been since the beginning of the network's creation. To that effect, it requires a user who's willing to learn. And we've talked about that. If a user is not willing to learn, they will quickly come to our attention. And if they continue to be not willing to learn and really just a disruptor, then they become fundamentally incompatible with the network and shown the door. And that happens on a fairly regular basis. At the end of the day, as a network, we see a fraction of the traffic that the real world sees in many parts of the world. Mind you, sometimes we see probably more traffic than the real world sees, and that's coming up soon with Cross the Pond. But everyone that we have is volunteers. Some of them are younger, some of them are older. At the end of the day, as a network, we want to be far closer to a simulation than to a game. So that is, the changes that will be made to GCAP are not intended to lower the bar, but are meant to make ATC more accessible to our members and make it reasonable, not perfect, but reasonable. There are different parts of our community that have much higher expectations of their ATC than other areas. And likewise, those air traffic controllers demand more of the pilots. We are never going to achieve an across the board level of competency from Australia to Vancouver, but the idea is to get everyone competent enough so that it can be enjoyable for everyone. Balance is the key, and we don't want to have barriers to entry that are ridiculously high, but we still want to maintain an acceptable level of quality. To that, we are working right now at revamping the P0 program, and Simon Kelsey is working on that to create a more robust entry system to the network, one that will disqualify or sort of shoo away the people who are just looking to connect like it's an FS Cloud server, with Air Force Proud 95 running around just crashing into everything. That's not what we want. And if you are on the network and you see someone like that, please wallop, and the supervisors will deal with that person right away. Pilot feedback system as well will help with this. So, we want to be, as president, I want the network to be a simulation, not a game. And, people troll me on that all the time in forums and stuff like that, our social media. I want to jump in, but I don't. But that's the answer to the question, really, is that we're working on GCAP and we're trying to make this as balanced as possible to have more and acceptable quality ATC and welcome pilots who want to learn. And while we don't want to discriminate against someone who knows nothing, we want them to cross a certain threshold of knowledge before they connect to the network. And then when they connect to the network, strive to get better with every session.
Perfect. Thanks, Tim. And we'll go on to the next question now. This one is for Mr. Irvine. Simon, there are criteria for overland FSS stations to be created, flight service stations, including traffic levels in the region they cover, GRP 7.1. Should the already created stations not be regularly reviewed to ensure they still comply with the criteria and can continue to exist? Simon?
Okay, that's another good question. So flight service stations are actually reviewed. So something that us as the regional VPs review with division directors from time to time. So for example, in my region, we did a review of the Eurocontrol sectors and we tweaked those a little bit, and they went into we've put those sectors into place at the end of last year. We've also created some new flight service stations in sub-Saharan Africa as well to expand the ATC coverage down there as well. So that is something that we review from time to time. If you feel though that there's a flight service station that isn't quite working, or you think one could exist that doesn't at the moment, speak to me or the regional director, speak to the division directors as well, and you can kick those conversations off. Thank you, Nick.
Excellent. Thanks, Simon. And the next one is to Matt Sinapardi. Matt, is there any plan to develop a custom CPDLC system for VATSIM? Matt?
Thanks, Nick. As with everything in VATSIM's tech world, we have to find a balance between network side innovation and development, and that's supporting our incredible community of third-party add-on developers. We have currently implemented third-party tools and plugins, such as the ever-popular system Hoppies, that really closes off this gap for us. To create our own solution would likely suffer adoption issues, and we'd rather not cannibalize the external add-on market. Back to you, Nick.
Thanks, Nick, or thanks, Matt, sorry. This next one is on over to Nick, and looks like he's already set up and ready to go. So here's the question. With the network becoming more crowded, how will the code of conduct and the network adapt to protect its controllers? Supervisor availability and swiftness, away from keyboard aircraft, out of cockpit requests, tools like CPDLC and Mode S, removing SIM weather discrepancies, etc. Nick?
Sure. So the Code of Conduct is a living document that's updated as times change. During our most recent update, we clarified pilot expectations and clarified requirements in relation to AFK to reflect what the true problem is with AFK members. The problem used to be related to bandwidth and cost. However, in today's information age, the issue relates more towards the impact that it has towards others, including our air traffic controllers. Like I mentioned in my intro, we have recently, within the past few months, released a new supervisor standard operating procedure. This provides updated guidance for supervisors on the actions to take, which will provide for quicker resolution for most issues that are brought up. In most cases, air traffic control should no longer be waiting for extended periods of time for resolution of AFK pilots. And if you see situations that don't get resolved appropriately, feel free to drop us a note at support.vatsim.net and we can take a look into the issue. Back to you, Nick.
Thanks, Nick. On to the next question, and this one is for Matt Bartels. Matt, as more users embrace Microsoft Flight Simulator, specifically, I'm assuming referring to 2020, the number of FMS over-reliant pilots who don't understand the procedures they file continues to rise. At what point will VATSIM culture begin to strongly encourage the IFR airliner crowd to obtain and utilize charts?
Well, that's a really good question. So we already do to a point, and so firstly, this is a pilot education and communication issue. We are actively working on it, and I work with pilot training hand in hand, coming up with information we can put out via social media, other communications platforms to draw attention to the common errors we see. When a new airliner releases that everyone is, excited about, we put out a post saying, hey, congratulations to, FS Labs or PMDG or whoever. Remember to, do your first couple of flights offline so you can understand how the aircraft works. And when the new airplanes release, we'll do the same thing. But the expectation of being able to fly what you file has always been there. We do agree more needs to be done to reach the newer generation of pilots, and that's something we are already undertaking. And if you want to get involved with that, pilot training is always looking for volunteers to help come up with content that we can distribute. As far as obtaining charts, a lot of people think that it's easy to get charts anywhere. That's not the case for some people in some areas of the world. They can't get free charts. They may not have the ability to pay for NavGraph charts or other charts. So we are looking at ways to help members there so they can find the information they need on the charts in a easier way.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. And on to the next one. This one's for Simon. Simon, why it's not allowed for VACC staffing their upper sectors without providing top-down with controllers that are familiar with the procedures, but Eurocontrol is allowed to do so without detailed knowledge. Do you think about extending special centers for more VACCs? Simon? Simon, are you talking on mute?
I was indeed talking on mute.
There we go.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah, there we go.
No problem.
Okay, so if we think about what Tim said earlier about the ethos of VATSIM providing a top-down experience for pilots, I don't think it's something that we want to do to expand other centres so that they just cover, just the upper levels. Especially for VACCs in Europe, we've got Eurocontrol who does that. And like I said, that's been reviewed recently and we've changed the sectors for that as well. So it's not something that we're looking to do at the moment. Back to you, Nick.
Okay, thanks, Simon. On to the next question. This one is for Mr. Fellini. Nick, are there any plans for a universal controller client? Nick?
Again, not yet, but with anything, these are things that are brought up frequently and considered. Know that a universal client would realistically be suitable due to just the differences that we see around the world, which is also the good thing about our current setup. And I think that's pretty much covers it.
Okay, fair enough. Short and sweet. We'll go on to the next one. Thank you. And this one's for the other Nick. So soups are overloaded, not online. Would you consider giving controllers more options as a pseudo soup? Maybe 30 minutes timeout for AFK pilots, restricted to C1 and above controllers, maybe a soup light to swiftly handle situations and evaluate later.
Sure. So I've previously mentioned supervisor availability and our efforts to increase their availability. I do also want to, offer a reminder that incidents can be reviewed after the fact. Just send us a report to the support center. So our supervisors are the ambassadors for VATSIM, and as such, we do thoroughly vet them for suitability for the position, as well as the related access that they receive. At the moment, providing supervisor abilities to controllers is not something that is under consideration. Back over to you.
Okay, thanks, Nick. And we'll probably have a few follow-up questions on that. I know I've got one in my mind already as well. We'll come back to that one, I'm sure. We'll go on to the next one. This one is for Matt Bartels. So Matt, every day people ask on Facebook the most basic questions about VATSIM. How can they pass their P0 without knowledge of top-down 122.8 advisory CTAF or basic principles of VATSIM? Matt?
Well, I'll be honest in this one. Your answer is as good as mine. So the whole point of the new member orientation course is to introduce all those concepts and then quiz you on most of those concepts. So it is one of the limitations about a theoretical course on a test, though. Just because you read about it doesn't mean you know how to understand it and apply it on the practical level. But Simon from Pilot Training told me that they are looking at completely overhauling that P0 course, and that's based on the feedback we've already received on these sort of issues. People asking, what is the Unicom frequency or what is top down. So hopefully once we get those revisions in, we'll see a large increase in the base competency when we start out.
Fair enough. Thank you very much, Matt. Next one is back to Mr. Fellini. And Nick, the question here is, when will Tower View return for controllers utilizing Euroscope?
Hey, can you hear me? Oh, I said I was going to go for a hat trick. Your scope requires an update from the developers to support this feature. There's currently not a time frame.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, and we know that in a lot of cases, we may be constrained when it comes to controllers, clients, and things like this by developer timelines, right?
Indeed, and I can't help you there.
Right. On to the next question then, and this one is once again for the other Nick, so we're like passing back and forth there. The question for you, Nick, is any plans for a minimum pilot qualification to fly at certain large-scale events? Code of Conduct requires pilots to fly altitude, heading, and speed, and even this often doesn't work. But for some large-scale events, proper IFR procedures would make controllers' lives a lot easier.
Sure. So we definitely understand the impact that an underqualified pilot can have on an event. However, proactively restricting pilots from flying in certain events is not something that's really enforceable. That being said, we are working on educational initiatives and communications that will inform pilots on the expected skills, as well as the competencies that are required for certain events, as well as certain airports. Recently, we have also tasked our supervisors to be more tactical when a pilot finds themselves drowning in an event that they're not quite ready for, and help that pilot find a more appropriate area to fly in for their skill level. Back over to you, Nick.
Makes perfect sense. And the next one is on to Matt. And Matt, the question for you is, VATSIM requires for pilots to call sectors in the Code of Conduct, but VATSIM is unable to provide an actual map for the sectors. What are your plans to provide accurate sector borders to pilots?
Absolutely. That, once again, is a great question. Over on the VATSIM GitHub, we've been providing a monthly updated data set that any app developer can use to make or update their own maps. It's a community effort, and any local staff is invited to provide updates to their sectors to increase and improve the accuracy. So far, we have SimAware, VATSpy, Volanta, VATPrism, and others that have adopted this and are updating their data monthly. We also have plans to integrate approach sectors, sector splits, and improve the correlation between online ATC stations and what is displayed on the various maps. However, it will always be a challenge to make an accurate depiction of 3D airspaces on a 2D map that's both useful for pilots and easy to use. Back to you, Nick.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, that's always been one of the challenges, right? Is just how do you display something that's 3D in a 2D environment? It's certainly a challenge. So we'll go on to the next question, and this one, Matt, is actually for you as well, so stick around. We've been told that audio for VATSIM, AFV, is capable of 8.33 kilohertz frequencies, but that they're not introduced due to limitations of some simulators. How many pilots still actively use those sims, and what is the threshold at which VATSIM will say, all right, let's implement it?
Absolutely. That's a really difficult one. You're right, there are some simulators that don't support 8.33, such as FSX, P3D versions 1.3. It's not just the simulators, though. There's also some really popular aircraft that are incapable of using the spacing, such as the PMGG suite of aircraft. We can't reasonably introduce this at a network level until we're sure that we have full adoption and compatibility with everything that all our members are using.
Excellent. Okay. And looks like you've got the hat trick as you got 3 in a row here. At the moment, VACCs or Arctics are unable to properly simulate the real world. Here we go with another 833 question. We're missing the 833 spacing, a fully functioning landline comm panel, and an open source controller client. Are any of these projects being planned? And if so, what are their timelines? Kind of a couple of questions in one there.
Absolutely. So work on a new version of the ATC audio client that includes landline is ongoing. It's in development, and we don't have a time frame available for release yet. An open source controller client is currently not being considered to run on our FSD protocol, which is the legacy protocol that our network servers currently use. However, as we move away from FSD into more proprietary software, we will revisit that.
Okay, excellent. And it looks like it's time to go on to the next question here. And this one is, well, I think this one will be for Ennis, but if his mic is still kind of fritzing out on us, we'll throw it out to the table. And that is
give Matt the turkey.
Okay, there you go. How will the board take on the current fundamental issues, speed, altimeter, heading, or maybe that's altitude. For controllers, sudden TCAS alerts, SIM discrepancies, varying ground speed, weather discrepancies, pilot suddenly going off route, SIM reliability. If not directly, how can it mitigate? Matt?
I can take this one, I guess. So the altimetry changes that Flight Sim 2020 brought, they caught pretty much the entire third-party development community off guard. They weren't very well communicated. And then we are hearing rumors that X-Plane 12 is also going to have something similar. That will cause issues for the VATSIM platform because not all of our simulators are going to be compatible with these changes. But now that we know about it, we've communicated out to the pilot client developers, and they have some ideas on how we can adapt to the new technology while we still smooth the discrepancies that we're currently seeing today. But that one's going to take a little time to fix.
Thanks, Matt. On to the next question in the lineup, and this one is also for Mr. Fellini. So, Nick, are there any plans for a global ATC scheduling system?
I get the softballs. Yeah, so we've released this to divisional and subdivisional teams already, a system that would handle this. It has not yet been released to the wider membership quite yet. There is some timeline that the team has in mind, including some API for some public consumption. But again, tools like Simaware, have these features. Already have the intent to include these features. Again, I think some additional information will be forthcoming on it.
Okay.
That was my longest one, I think.
I think so. Thank you very much. And we'll go on to the next one, which is for Matt Bartels. So, Matt, under the leadership of Gunnar, VATSIM has seen new advancements such as AFV, MyVATSIM, Velocity, and a few more projects coming along. However, several clients, pilots, and ATC are currently not developed in-house. Are there any plans to switch this? Matt?
Okay, right now that's not likely. None of the clients are in-house development. But we do have very good long-standing relationships with all of the developers of our software. And there's some things behind the scenes that will ensure continued availability of the clients.
Okay, thanks, Matt. And we'll go on to the next question now. And this one is also leading into the closing remarks from Tim, but I'll go ahead and pass it over to Tim for now before we get into the follow-up questions. So Tim, the question here is, what is the Boggs vision for VATSIM? And if you want to save that for your closing remarks, we can. Just let me know.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll right into the closing remarks with this. But as I've been here, I've sort of in the background been monitoring the stream and some of the questions that are coming up there. And there's three questions in particular that I've identified here that I thought I might just pick up on. Storm 0203 talked about preferred names, and specifically how the idea of preferred names is not so much about gamer tags, but is particularly applicable to the LGBTQ plus community, and we absolutely recognize that as a network. We have a very specific policy in place, which is very liberal, where name changes in situations such as that are easily facilitated, and it's simply a matter of opening up a ticket with the membership department, and they will work with the member on that. So it's the bigger question, the 30,000 foot view here is that at the end of the day, we're dealing with a large network with 6 digits worth of members, and we have to protect some of those members, especially minors. We have an obligation to protect them. So we do need to know who is connecting to our network. So if we run into issues, we can refer it with information to people who can take care of that for us. But as I said, if anybody, in the community would like to change their name, whether they're transgender, for any other reason, just reach out to the membership department and they will work with you. Captain Feliz had a note about supervisors and pilots and how supervisors will, talk to a pilot and then come back to ATC and say, oh, well, everything's good now. Maybe there's a little bit of communication that can happen there, but keep in mind, the supervisor department is not a police force. Their job is not to come and hook people off the network for having done something wrong. We're an education network, and the supervisors are customer service representatives. If they're able to resolve a situation, i.e., help a pilot, with understanding why they have to do a certain thing, get in touch with ATC, whatever the case may be, then the supervisors will try every attempt to help the pilot before removing them from the network. Now, that being said, if it's a pilot in the middle of a very busy event that's causing untold carnage amongst the ATC, then the supervisor, can and should be immediately removing that pilot, and they have the tools available to prevent that pilot from reconnecting for a period of time so that they don't come back on and do stuff. So as Nick Cavaccini said, if you ever run into an issue where you think it wasn't handled correctly, just open up a ticket at support.vatsim.net and they'll be able to help you out. And then another user, John, asked about centralized links for charts. And that's a difficult one because those charts are copyrighted. We can't just provide links to current charts in various places. That's going to cause a problem for the network and what have you. Many of the local facilities on their websites will have, in most cases, outdated charts available to people to look at. In the United States, there's a great website called AirNav, which has pretty much every FAA facility's current charts that are available for free. For free. You do have to have a login there, but they don't charge for it. So there are different facilities, different places. We, as a network, though, we can't provide that repository of charts for copyright reasons. So with that, let's talk about the future. It's fair to say, and hopefully people understand, and forgive me because my computer, which has my notes, is now deciding to have a bit of a conniption, but we're not resting on our laurels. Earlier this year, the Board of Governors started the exercise of developing a strategic plan that will lay the foundations for the future of the network. Right now, VATSIM, in my opinion anyways, is the world leader when it comes to online global aviation simulation experience. We synthesize virtual flight and air traffic control, and we do it at no cost to our members, and we want to continue to lead and innovate. VATSIM strives to be an educational and fun experience that connects aviation enthusiasts around the world. Our goal will continue to be promoting community and inspiring people to pursue lifelong learning, skill enhancement, and provide an outlet for all those who love aviation through flight and air traffic control simulation. The development of the strategic plan includes an opportunity for all of our stakeholders, including you, the member, to provide your input and thoughts. And this is a huge undertaking. I've been involved in many strategic plans in the place, and the ones that you pay people to do that cost tens of thousands of dollars take months to do. For us, this one will take time. Our goal is to complete the strategic plan prior to the end of 2022, and we very much look forward to involving the membership in the process. As we close, and I realize, Nick, that we may have some questions that have come in, some follow-up questions, but I'll just finish with this piece and then we can get on to those if we have them. But a few things. I want to thank all of the members who contributed questions today. We won't be able to get to all of them and still keep this town hall to a reasonable length. Now, that said, we will strive to provide answers to any of the questions we missed over the next few weeks through our various social media and forum outlets. And as always, if you have specific questions or concerns about the network, I would invite you to email me, president@vatsim.net, and I will be sure to respond or pass you on to somebody else who can. In closing, I want to thank, on behalf of the entire Board of Governors, our VP of Marketing, Matt Bartles, and his entire team, including our MC today, Nick Watkins, for putting this town hall together. I look forward to seeing all of our members in the VATSIM skies soon. Nick, over to you if there's any follow-up questions.
Thanks, Tim. So yes, we do have some follow-up questions. Just flip the screen over here, and we'll just start going from the bottom here. So I'll just throw these out to the general, the board here. So whoever wants to take it, just feel free to speak up. Could it be made possible for older members of VATSIM to view and or test themselves on the P0 material, especially if one does not feel too confident about their own knowledge, I'm assuming is what it means.
So I'll take that one. If the question is, can the option be made available? Sure. Yeah, they can reach out to us, and we'd be happy to set them up with the P0 course as a personal test or refresher. Is the question, are we going to make it mandatory to test older people? No, that would not be something that we would do. That would be, probably a violation of rights in many parts of the world. We don't discriminate against age. Everybody on this network, we try to treat the same. And we would encourage people that if they want to go through it, if they haven't had an opportunity to reach out to us, and we'll set them up on it.
Okay. And we'll go on to the next one then. And the next one is, every once in a while, when there is a lot of traffic on the network and it logs everyone off, what causes this, and are there any plans to fix it? I'm assuming that's going to be either a Matt or a Nick question.
Mr. Cianfrani can take that one.
Absolutely, yeah, I'll take that one. So if we look back to about 2 years ago, the server stack that VATSIM uses, it's incredibly old software. We started to tweak that software, make small improvements, change the infrastructure and how we run that software to try and prepare it for the mass scale that we knew we would see when we started to release AFV and then earlier this year, Velocity. As it currently stands, we do have some limitations in our software and our hardware that is being caused by the increased load that Velocity is bringing to us. Good news is we have a team that is sitting there almost every single day, making changes to the code, changes to the servers. We're seeing these dropouts decrease significantly, and we won't stop until they're a thing of the past.
Beautiful. Okay, let's go on to the next question. As a controller in a quiet region, Africa, it would be great to have more traffic to control. Low volumes of traffic demotivate some controllers. Is there any way for the BOGs to promote traffic level in quieter regions and VACCs or RTECs?
Mr. Bartles, do you want to answer that one? Or Simon, go ahead. Actually, yes, Simon, that's good. It's your region. Go for it.
Go for it.
It is. Yeah. Okay. So regarding like sub-Saharan Africa, you're absolutely right. It is one of our quieter divisions. But what Dave Woodward, who's the division director down there, is trying to do is to get a lot more events there. So we've had things. So I know there was an event there a few weeks ago. The World Flight team visited sub-Saharan Africa as well. So unfortunately, these things, it's not a flick of a switch and we can make traffic appear. It's a gradual thing, but we're trying to get more events there. There's lots of training happening down there as well, which means there's more ATC happening in sub-Saharan Africa as well. So I think over time you'll start to see an increase in traffic as we get more ATC online.
Awesome, thanks, Simon. Okay.
And that's really the key. Events. If you build events, people will come, and as they come for events, then they're more likely to come back. In the future as well.
And this one may be for you as well, Tim. Is Iron Mike making a comeback, and how do you plan to solve the issues that that caused it to be shut down in the first place?
Yeah, it is coming back, and the plan right now is to, rather than make it a weekly competition, to make it a monthly competition. We're probably going to rebrand it as something other than Iron Mike, That's still being discussed and developed. Frankly, we need the tools from a statistical point of view to be able to just click a button and come up with the statistics we need to build it. With sort of the changes that Matt Gianfrani has mentioned that have been made server side, it's not as, some of those tools need to be rebuilt from scratch. They can't use the old scripts that they used to do. So we're working right now on developing what what it will look like, and then from there we'll build the tools, and once that's done, we'll re-implement it.
Thanks, Tim. And we'll move on to the next one now, and that is, do you consider a more practical pilot mentoring program for new pilots that offer a mentor, more practical training offered globally? Who wants this one?
Well, Nick Fellini hasn't had a hard question yet, so how about Nick?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time? I had somebody else in my ear.
Yeah, no problem. Do you consider a more practical pilot mentoring program for new pilots that offer a mentor, more practical training offered globally?
I feel like I'm going to put somebody else to work with this question. So yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. I don't know specifically what that department has in terms of that philosophy. I think that brings up a very interesting perspective. And I'll share with when I first started on the network, I had a mentor that was an airline pilot, a 777 type rated instructor, everything. And I probably wouldn't know how to fly PMG aircraft if it wasn't for him. So I think it's an excellent idea. Like anything else, it requires manpower, resources, and dedication, which is what the network is based on. It's what the controllers do on their side of the network. I think it's something that would definitely work on the pilot side. I think there might be some, informal and non-network run options available. Certain social groups and stuff where people already do that, and I encourage you to check there. But it's definitely an interesting idea without putting another department to work. I would say that it's something, that's definitely worth discussing.
If I can add on there, I don't mind. I'm not going to put another department to work, but I would put the entire membership to work. This is our community, and the community is only as strong as the members willing to put in time to help. So, if you're looking on Facebook or Reddit or anywhere, and you see a pilot struggling, and you can help them, reach out and help them. That's what builds the community. That's what's made VATSIM so great over the past 20 years. And instead of talking down at people, give them a helping hand. We're all part of the solution here.
Exactly. And the other resource is a lot of virtual airlines provide a lot of in-house mentoring and training for the pilots, both sort of from a one-on-one perspective, but also sort of from a resources self-learning type thing. I could name a dozen here, but I don't want to discriminate against the dozen that I don't know. But that is a facility, that is one facility, and we have a bunch of authorized training organizations that specialize in pilot training that are approved by VATSIM. You can go to our links on the VATSIM webpage, and you can find access to any of those as well. And I'm sure many of them provide one-on-one training once you get to a certain level within the program.
Good stuff. Well, thank you very much, guys. And we'll go ahead and go on. It looks like we got a few more follow-up questions. I know there's a bunch more in the queue as well, but like Tim said, I don't think we're going to be able to get to all of them today. But rest assured, we'll get the answers out as quickly as we can. So this next question is, in my experience, supervisors are typically unwilling to take any action against a pilot unless there is an explicit COC violation. What guidance is provided to supervisors on how to handle a pilot that is not able to fly their plane or follow procedures?
Sure, I can take this one.
Cool. Thanks,
So
Nick.
one of the so one of the things that a lot of people probably don't necessarily understand with the COC unless you've taken a fairly deep dive into it is, the Bravo 8 of the Code of Conduct says, there's 4 competencies that are required of all members, which is, or of all pilots: holding a position when on the ground, flying at a speed, flying a heading, and flying an altitude or flight level. It also adds in there that a pilot must comply with all agreed, which is read-back air traffic control clearances and all issued instructions. And if there's, if the pilot's unable to do so, they have to notify air traffic control without delay. So that's in B Bravo 8. So if a pilot is not complying with the issued instructions, that is actually against Bravo 8. To the second part of the question as to what guidance is provided to supervisors, we have recently, and this is probably within the past month, issued some updated guidance to the supervisors to be more proactive and more active in taking pilot competency issues and addressing them. So we have been very very pilot centric in the past. We are working to shift that subtly. However, the exact amount of shifting to do is something that we're still trying to feel out. So just know that we are taking a look at it. We are trying to do it as tactfully as possible and provide for education opportunities for all pilots. And I'll pass it back over.
Cool, thanks, Nick. And we'll go on to the next question. How does VATSIM plan to investigate divisions, VACCs, ARDECs who find and exploit loopholes in the GRP? I'm glad I'm not answering this question.
Well, that
I think from a regional.
Yeah, go ahead, Simon.
Yeah, I was going to say from a regional director point of view. I mean, if you think that your division, your VACC, your ATAC, get in contact with your region director, please, because we'll take that really seriously.
If I can add to that's one thing the GCAP project was addressing was a lot of these loopholes that are in GRP, tightening those up.
Thanks, everybody. We'll go on to the next one. Boston Virtual ARDEC, BVA, has an amazing program, Wings, over New England, that I'm sure most of the BOG are aware of. Does the BOG have plans to expand the pilot training program to programs such as the Wings program?
So that is something that has come up in the past, and Simon Kelsey is not here to answer the question, and I don't want to put words in his mouth on this particular topic, mainly because I don't know sort of what the viewpoint is. I do know that when we made changes to sort of the scaling program, the ratings program, from P0 up to P4 and beyond, it sort of changed the dynamic and how they integrate back and forth. I would like to think that Simon Kelsey would find a way to work with the BVA people and it may require some changes on BVA side to their training structure on that. At the end of the day, we provide the ability for people to convert real world licenses to P ratings on the network. But there is not, nor do we ever intend to, restrict a pilot's ability to do things based on their P rating. The BVA program, and I don't know if Los Angeles still has their program as well, are great programs for sure. And I would encourage everybody to go through them and do them. Whether we can link up that training structure with our P system, that'll be something that'll have to pass on to Simon Kelsey to have a look at.
Perfect. Thank you, Tim. And we'll go on to the next question. Just a couple more left here. Again, I know some folks may still have some follow-up questions they're either putting in or they don't see on the active side yet. And again, we unfortunately don't have time to get to all of them today, but we will try to address them in a blog post, something similar, social media, what have you, over the next couple of weeks. The next question is, and Matt has said he'll take this one, Mr. Bartles, is there any possibility that VATSIM can come up with an in-build software for model matching on vPilot and xPilot without using external add-ons?
Well, this would put the tech team to work, but I will say that right now VATSIM has been wholly reliant on the general flight sim community and VATSIM members developing things we can use on the network. Right now, the AI models out there, the paints out there, that's all community driven by other communities. If that's something we want to do, we got to, as a membership in general, commit to a project, because that's a lot of work. We need people to model airplanes, we need people to paint airplanes, and we need people to be willing to donate that work to VATSIM so that it can constantly be used, and we would never have to worry about something happening like permissions being pulled, which is what happened with FLAI. So something that I'm sure we'd be interested in doing, but it will take a massive community effort to get that done.
Thanks, Matt. And it looks like that's something that's been a struggle within the simulation community for as far as back as I can remember. I mean, I've been simming since I think Flight Sim 95, and it was an issue back then even. So certainly not anything new, unfortunately. So we'll go on to the next question here, and that is there any way we can offer better awareness of pilot training programs for new pilots who may feel overwhelmed with all the rules and skills required as a pilot?
Well, I think our marketing department does a great job of promoting all of these things. Most recently, the graphics that were put out that were courtesy of the pilot training department and put out by our social media department to advertise certain aspects of pilot competency were fantastic and very well received as well. There's not much more that we can do other than what we do, which is, and we have a tremendous social media outreach, thanks to all the work that Matt and his department have done over the last couple of years. I think that, I'll pass it over to Matt to comment as well, but I think we've done quite a bit there, and we provide links and access and commentary on it when they do the P0. Apart from driving to their house and leaving a note in their mailbox, I don't know that there's much else we can do, Matt.
Well, it's a continuous outreach thing. I know a lot of people on here, they see pilot quality issues, and as a controller, I've seen them myself. I'll admit to that. But there is a great number of potential members out there, or people that have signed up for VATSIM that are just petrified to sign on for the first time. I see it on all kinds of mediums. I don't want to sign on. I'm scared. I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake. So, with pilot training, it's getting all that information out there. We're working on videos to train, spot train little areas, general philosophy type things. So it's really going to be a massive amount of communication to point people in the right direction. And it's on the membership as well. If you see someone asking a question and you know where there's a good resource to answer it, send it along. That only helps them.
Well, thank you very much, Matt. And I think we'll go on to the next question, which looks like you've spoken up and said you'll take as well. And if I screw this up, hit me. But cross-coupling frequencies is already incorporated into AFE, and controllers have the abilities to cross-couple the frequencies on the chart. Wouldn't this be beneficial to adding immersion to the network, supporting the simulation part of the network?
Yeah, so this is a little bit of tech, but a little bit more policy. So yes, you can cross-couple a ton of frequencies on AFV. Now, the reason we put out policy to restrict that a little bit is for two reasons. Number one, it causes massive amounts of confusion. And since we're a learning network and people are at all different levels, we rely on that available ATC box in our pilot clients, and that's a crutch that a lot of the pilots do need. And as it stands right now, we don't have a technical solution where we can show, okay, my primary frequency is this, but I'm also controlling Chicago or O'Hare Tower on this frequency and Midway Tower on this frequency, so people won't know that. So it causes confusion. And then if they gets sent over to that frequency and they don't see it online, then they question the controller on it, and that leads to frequency congestion. It's kind of a logistical mess right now to do that. The other issue we have is for every frequency you open up, there is a cost to it. So it comes down to more of a cost benefit analysis. Is it worth to spend the resources to open up all these frequencies when really we can get by on, just the 2 or 3 are going to open right now?
Fair enough. Thank you, Matt. And it looks like we've got one more question before we hit up a couple of closing remarks here, and that is similar to the pilot feedback system. Has there ever been a thought of including a sort of pilot deviation plan where controllers are able to submit a pilot deviation if they feel they need? And I'm assuming this would be similar to like the ATSAP system that exists real world in the US.
Yeah, that's exactly what the pilot training department will be doing with the pilot feedback system. It'd be absolutely valid to do like a pilot deviation within that system, and like I said, then the pilot training department can reach out to the pilot and try and work on educating them and taking a step forward in how they interact with the network.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Tim. And I know Matt had, Senator Farney had one more bit that he would like to touch on, but I do have a follow-up question I want to pass to Nick here real quick, and that's on the supervisor side. And has there been any thought about automating some supervisor function? So let's say like, pilot spawns the 747 at the end of 27 right at Atlanta. Well, he's on the end of the runway. We know where the GPS coordinates are of the runway. Could we potentially automate that and, kick them off when they connect on an active runway?
It's actually a very good question. I don't think that's an item that we have discussed a whole lot. However, we do have some tools that are currently set up in order to alert supervisors of various actions that occur on the network that might be disruptive to others or otherwise in violation of the code of conduct. One of those that's actually, or one of the notifications that we actually do receive as a supervisor department is notifications of wall-up messages when there are no supervisors online. So if there is a supervisor available at the time, however, just not logged in, they can still log in and assist the user.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Nick. And like I said, I think Matt had a couple of things to touch on before we pass it back to Tim for closing remarks. Matt?
Absolutely. Just wanted to mention, VATSIM is a completely volunteer-driven organization. If any members out there want to raise a hand and volunteer to take a next step within the network, please do so. Can you write some code? Reach out to the VP of Technical Development. Do you know what a server is? Reach out to me. We need people on that team. Earlier today, we also posted 2 new vacancies for the membership department. We're always looking for volunteers and people to raise their hand and join the fun.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Matt. And Tim, I'll pass it back to you to add any closing remarks that you have before we close it up for today.
Sure. Thank you to you, Nick, and to everyone who joined us today on this live streamed town hall. I had a lot of fun. And I want to just sort of follow up with what Matt said, is that, if you want to contribute to the network, if you have skill sets in programming, in web page design, in, network infrastructure, we're always looking for volunteers, and we're happy to talk to anybody who wants to contribute to the network. So, reach out to me or reach out to the specific department head, board of governor that you think you would like to help with, and they'll engage with you. They'll chat with you. I want to thank all of my fellow board members who joined us today: Matt, Nick, Roger, Annis, and Fed, who came in at the end. Thanks, Fed. And we did have some people not here for various reasons of personal avocation or events or illness, as the case may be. So we thank those members, those board of government members, for still contributing on the back end with answering some questions and what have you. So thank you to everybody who tuned in today. Appreciate you being here, and like I said, I look forward to seeing everyone in the skies.
Thanks so much, Tim. And I'll just let the rest of the group know if anybody else wants to chime in before we close up here. But for everybody still watching the stream, still with us, don't forget to check out our social media channels. If you're watching us on YouTube, you've already got us there, or on Twitch. But we're also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And it's either VATSIM or VATSIMnet or just /VATSIM for those three. Once again, thanks everybody for coming today. And we'll leave you with the quote that is often incorrectly attributed to Leonardo da Vinci, and that's, "For once you have tasted flight, you will walk the earth with eyes turned skyward. For there you've been, and there you will long to return." Thanks for joining, everyone. We'll see you around next time.